Where were you when LeBron James made his infamous decision to join the Miami Heat to pair up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh? Were you watching the decision at home on your TV? Did you get a notification on your phone? Or hear it from a friend? Wherever you were, there's no denying the thought that LeBron had just created a team so unstoppable that the whole season should have just been a write-off. The Miami Heat were heavy favorites to win it all, and for good reason. But what transpired in the first postseason of the Miami Heat Big Three era certainly wasn't what the King was hoping for, but one that felt amazing to watch from the outside looking in. This run was so historic that it cemented Dirk Nowitzki's legacy as one of the greatest power forwards of all time. Let's talk about it. Welcome to my Historic Run series. If you're new to the series or the channel, first off, welcome. The Historic Run series is when we have a look at a player that goes on, well, a historic run. It's pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't matter if it was the playoffs or regular season. So far in this series, we've had a look at LeBron James' 2018 playoff run, where he carried the Cavs to the finals. Stephen Curry's 2016 regular season run, where he became the first ever player to win back-to-back unanimous MVPs. And Hakeem Olajuwon's 1995 postseason run, which is one of the most underrated yet dominant performances in NBA history. Links to all those videos will all be in the description below, and I'll have a playlist on the top right part of the screen right now for you to click on if you're interested. Today's episode was actually recommended to me by two people who left comments on my previous Historic Runs video, so thank you to Ye and Neil for the recommendation. If you have a historic run you'd like to see me make into a video, make sure you leave a comment just like Ye and Neil did, and I'll make sure to make it into a video. And while you're doing that, make sure you leave a like on this video if you enjoy it to help my small channel to grow, and subscribe so that you never miss when I post a video. Now let's get started by having a look at the first round. The first round saw the Dallas Mavericks matched up against the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers were led by LaMarcus Aldridge, so this round was going to be a battle of the bigs. Portland also had Brandon Roy, but he was a shell of himself because of all the injuries he had suffered. Dirk Nowitzki got to work quickly in the series by getting a double-double in Game 1 with 28 points and 10 rebounds. That, paired up with Jason Kidd's 24 points, was enough to capture the win for Game 1. Game 2 was more of the same as Dirk put up 33 points and had some surprising contributions by Peja Stojakovic, who scored 21 points off the bench. That burst of scoring was just too much for Portland, and now they were down 2-0. Game 3 was in Portland, and this must have sparked something in the team because they managed to scrape out a win behind LaMarcus Aldridge's 20 points and Wesley Matthews' 25 points. Brandon Roy also had a solid game, having 16 points off of the bench. Dirk didn't do too bad as he had 25 points, but only he and Jason Terry really came to play as he had 29 points off the bench. 2-1 Dallas Mavericks. Portland would again stun the Mavs in Game 4 and tie the series up 2-2 as Brandon Roy led the way in scoring with 24 points off of the bench. Dirk had probably his worst game of the series, only having 20 points, but he would quickly recover the next game with 25 points and 8 rebounds, leading his team to a 3-2 series lead. In an elimination game, Dirk Nowitzki was not going to mess around. He had 33 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists, and led his team to the series win. Jason Terry also contributed off the bench with 22 points and 8 assists, and this was much needed as Portland had a few players go off as well, like Gerald Wallace, who had 32 points and 12 rebounds, and LaMarcus Aldridge, who had 24 points and 10 rebounds. Dirk Nowitzki had a solid start to the playoffs. In the series against the Portland Trail Blazers, he averaged 27.3 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, and 3 assists, along with some great percentages, those being 45% from the field and 44% from 3. This round saw Dirk Nowitzki go up against a young stud at his position, that being LaMarcus Aldridge. But the next round would see him face off against some serious competition, as he would be going up against the LA Lakers led by Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. Game 1 was a big night for the two stars on each of the teams. Dirk Nowitzki had 28 points and 14 rebounds, while Kobe Bryant had 36 points. Dallas ended up narrowly winning the game, 94-96. Game 2 was another win for the Mavs, and this time it was a more well-rounded game in terms of scoring for both sides. Dirk had 24 points, which was solid, but he also had 3 teammates score 10 or more points. Kobe led the way for the Lakers, scoring 23 points, but it simply wasn't enough to overcome the Mavs. The Mavericks now controlled the series 2-0. Game 3 was another close win for the Mavs, with 92-98 being the final score. Dirk had another stellar performance, dropping 32 points and grabbing 9 rebounds. Jason Terry off the bench also had a big night with 23 points, and that was enough for the win. On the other side of the court, Kobe had probably one of his worst playoff performances of the postseason as he only had 17 points. Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom both scored more points than Kobe at 21 and 18 respectively. The Mavericks had the opportunity to sweep the Lakers in Game 4 and they made sure to execute as they won by 36 points with the final score looking like 122 to 86. Kobe again only had 17 points and that was on terrible efficiency and no one else on the Lakers seemed ready to play. Dirk Nowitzki also had 17 points, which was the lowest amount he'd score in the entire postseason, but luckily, the Mavericks had 3. That's right, 3 bench players score at least 21 points. Peja Stojakovic had 21, JJ Barea had 22, and Jason Terry had 32. The Mavs bench was on fire in Game 4 and they managed to sweep the LA Lakers. Dirk Nowitzki had a great series against the LA Lakers other than the last game. In the series, he averaged 25.3 points, 9.3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists on hear this, 57.4% field goal percentage and 72.7% from behind the arc. 72.7. I don't think you understand how crazy that is. For every 4 3-pointers he was taking, almost 3 of them were gonna go in. Even though many thought that this second round matchup was gonna be much more intense, Dirk Nowitzki held down the fort against the reigning champs. Many were saying Kobe was out of it this series because of injuries, but I'll leave that up for you to decide. With this sweep coming out of nowhere, the Dallas Mavericks were now on a roll and had momentum on their side for the next round. The Western Conference Finals for the Mavs saw them face off against a really weird yet interesting matchup. The young Oklahoma City Thunder with their own big 3 before they had been established. The Oklahoma City Thunder had one of the biggest what-if teams in NBA history. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka all on the same team. Of course, Russ and Harden were nowhere near as skilled as they would be later down the line, but it was just incredible to see them all together. Game 1 was a win for the Dallas Mavericks as Dirk Nowitzki started off the series scorching hot with 48 points. Jason Terry and JJ Barea also led the bench unit of the Mavs with 24 points from Terry and 21 from JJ. Kevin Durant tried his best to lead his team by dropping 40 points and also accumulating 8 rebounds and 5 assists as well as a steal and 2 blocks, but it was just no match for the Mavs. Game 2 was a victory for Oklahoma City Thunder though, tying the series up 1-1. This victory for OKC was a joint effort by the Big 3. KD had 24 points, Russ had 18, and James Harden had 23 off the bench. Dirk had 29 himself, but no one else seemed to show up. Dallas would come back in Game 3 and secure the dub. Dirk had a quiet night scoring only 18 points, but luckily other guys showed up like Shawn Marion who had 18 points, Jason Kidd who had 13, and Jason Terry who also had 13. Russell Westbrook dropped 30 points in Game 3 and KD had 24, but no one else on the team even scored double digits that night. Game 4 was once again a beatdown for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dirk had another stellar night, dropping 40 points, and Jason Terry also came up clutch with 20 points. 5 players scored over 10 points for OKC, including Kevin Durant's 29, but again, they were just no match. The next game would be an elimination game for OKC. Game 5 saw Shawn Marion and Dirk Nowitzki both drop 26 points, and Jason Terry and JJ Barea leading the way for the bench, having 12 points and 14 points respectively. On the other side, Westbrook had 31 points, and both KD and James Harden each had 23, but they just couldn't grab the second win in the series. The Dallas Mavericks had now beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals in 5 games. I think this series really proved how well the Dallas Mavericks defense worked. I think oftentimes when we look back on this team's run, many fans give a lot of credit to Dirk Nowitzki for leading his team. And yes, he was leading the team for sure, there's no denying that. But the team was built in an amazing way because Dirk was able to run the offense through himself while also having a ton of defense on the other end. Dirk was a stud on offense, but his defense left much to be desired. Luckily, the Mavs had Shawn Marion, who was a versatile defender, Jason Kidd, who was an all-NBA level defender his entire career, and Tyson Chandler, who was a Defensive Player of the Year to hold down the paint. That defense, along with surrounding Dirk with shooters like JJ Barea, Jason Kidd, and Jason Terry, was a recipe for success. Even though it only took the Mavericks 5 games to win the series, all the games were decided by less than 10 points. Experience ended up winning it for them. But all of this would be tested in the NBA Finals, where they would be going up against the newly assembled Heatles led by LeBron James. Before we have a look at the NBA Finals, I just wanted to remind you to leave a like on this video if you've enjoyed it. Chances are you have been enjoying it if you've made it this far, so why not help my small channel to grow? It only takes a second and is free. If you want to help me out one step further, you can do so by subscribing to the channel so that you know when a new video drops. Leave a comment letting me know which historic run I should have a look at next in this series, or what you think of the video, or if you have any other video ideas. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. You guys are the absolute best. Don't forget that. Now let's have a look at the finals. Going into the finals, the Mavericks were viewed as the underdogs. Those thoughts were only fueled after Game 1 as Miami won 92-84. Dirk did his thing. He had 27 points and 8 rebounds, but no one else really showed up for the team. LeBron had 24, 9, and 5, so your typical LeBron numbers. Wade also put up 22 points, and that was enough to secure the dub for Game 1. Game 2 saw the Mavericks fight hard and edge out with the win, 95-93. Dirk Nowitzki had a double-double consisting of 24 points and 11 rebounds. Shawn Marion also had 20 points, which definitely helped. LeBron only had 20 points, which isn't bad for a normal guy, but it's LeBron James we're talking about. Wade did put on a show, having 36 points and 3 steals, but like I said before, the Mavs would end up tying the series 1-1. Game 3 saw Dwayne Wade take over, dropping 29 points and grabbing 11 rebounds. Dirk had 34 and 11 himself, but the Mavs couldn't overcome the Heat, losing 84-86. Game 4 was a win for the Mavericks, as Dirk dropped 21 points and grabbed 11 rebounds. Shawn Marion and JJ Barea also had 16 points and 17 points respectively. For LeBron, this was by far his worst game of the series, as he only had 8 points. The Heat got Bosh and Wade to step up, as Bosh had 24 points and Dwayne Wade had 32 points, but those measly 8 points from LeBron really dropped the ball for the Heat. They lost Game 4 by 3 points, 86-83, and the series was now tied 2-2. In Game 5, Dirk Nowitzki had 29 points and also got some major support from the supporting cast. Jason Terry had 21 points off the bench, JJ Barea had 17 points, and both Tyson Chandler and Jason Kidd also had 13 points each. LeBron still struggled but got a triple-double with 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. Wade also had 23 points, but they were clearly outmatched. The Mavericks now had a 3-2 series lead and were one game away from being NBA champions. In Game 6, facing elimination, LeBron James, the so-called leader of the Big Three, puts up only 21 points. Wade had 17 and Bosh put up 19. Dirk himself didn't have too crazy of a night, only having 21 points and 11 rebounds, and Jason Terry had 27 points off the bench. He was definitely one of the most underrated parts of this team. And that does it. The Mavericks win Game 6, 105-95, and beat the infamous Miami Heat Big Three in 6 games. Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks completed the mission that every team in the NBA wanted to do. They knocked off the Miami Heat and hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Dirk Nowitzki was named the Finals MVP, averaging 26 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 2 assists, while shooting 41% from the field, 36% from 3, and 98% from the line in the finals. The Dallas Mavericks had to go through the LaMarcus Aldridge-led Blazers in the first round, Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol in the second round, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden Big Three in OKC in the conference finals, and LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh in the NBA finals. And this was all just in one postseason. Dirk Nowitzki was undoubtedly the face of this team, but that shouldn't downplay how well the team was crafted. Everyone had their roles and they executed it perfectly, point guard to center. Even the 6th and 7th mans should be praised on this team. I was really thinking of naming this run after the Dallas Mavericks and not just Dirk Nowitzki, but voted against it. All in all, in the 2011 postseason run for Dirk Nowitzki, he averaged 27.7 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 2.5 assists while shooting 48.5% from the field, 46% from 3, and 94.1% from the line. Truly a legendary and historic moment that we should all look back on. If you've made it this far, thank you. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to get notified whenever I post a video. Leave a comment letting me know what you think of the video and of Dirk Nowitzki's historic 2011 playoff run. And as always, until next time, cheers.